Good evening. We're going to get started. It's so great seeing you all already ready, jumping in, ready to get this evening started. Of course, we're going to wait on Jackie, and she is, of course, out of South Florida, and hopefully she'll be joining us very soon. Hi, Virginia. How are you? It's good seeing that you jumped right on with us, folks. We have a lot going on this month, and I'm so excited to be back. I want to wait till Jackie joins us before I actually get into the program itself, but I can't believe it's summer. I mean, already, I can't believe the kids are out of school already, and talking about going to summer school, and that's part of our conversation. Our conversation tonight, taking a look at this summer school situation and the pros and cons of it. But again, I we were off last week. Well, once we have a series, we take off for the week after that series, and now we have 4 more weeks of great programming for you. But before I get into the programming, I do want to share with you that a few announcements. I do want to share that the month of June is the Foundation's National Month of Giving. We want to ask you all to please donate to us. Help us out, if you will. If we've helped you out at all, please help us out. Any donation of any size is also welcome. Again, it's your opportunity to invest in us as we invest in you. So I'm really happy about the opportunity to do that, about the opportunity we're giving you all to actually be a part of us because you're just like family to us. I do want to say there's another announcement that we have. Hey, Jackie, how are you doing?
Good evening, Dr. Miles. I'm well, and yourself?
Hey, great. I was telling the audience that we can't start without you. So I was sort of like filling in
Well,
for the
thank you.
announcements. I almost felt like the church announcements, you know.
That sounds
So
good.
so we're gonna do the
Let
announcements
the church
again.
say amen. I heard about
A-
our fundraising month.
Amen. Yeah, the month of June is the foundation's fundraising month. And again, you can always give after the month, of course, but we want to make sure we accentuate, give as much as you can in the month of June. I do want to say we're actually broadcasting live. We're broadcasting live on Facebook Live and also on Instagram. So I'm really happy about that. We have both going on. Jackie, and we've got to get our technicians. Um,
So that we can both be on Facebook.
exactly, because
Yes,
people want to see you on Facebook.
that's right. Want to be seen.
So exactly. So I do want to give you some other announcements where we are. We talked about the fundraiser. Also, for those who are not aware, I have actually worked with young men for many years, and many young men from the inner city who sometimes thought they could not go to college and or had challenges, and sent many young men to college who thought they could not go. So two of our alumni came up with the idea that we should have an alumni. Isn't that awesome, Jackie? An
Alumni
alumni.
Association. Yes,
Yeah,
alumni group.
and
Yes,
it's called paying it forward. And what
yes.
they said they're going to do, and they've already started, for a matter of fact, is that each of them are going to actually donate to us on a recurring basis. And their goal was to do $100 per month. Isn't that? It's just awesome. And so,
Exciting.
uh, for those of you who have our email addresses, I'm sorry, we have your email address. You'll be getting an email from us talking about all the wonderful things we're doing at the foundation. And if you know anyone whose life I've touched, hey, tell them to consider being part of the Alumni Association. Jackie, you have any comments on that?
Well, I just always like to remind people because I know you always say, donate to us and, support us. But for me, it really is about supporting the community. The funds that they send through the organization support the community. And to your point, it supports, helping other young people. What I'm excited about the alumni group is that they can speak firsthand. I do remember some of them when they were teenagers. And of course, they've gone on to become highly successful people. And so very excited that they have decided to pay it back and pay it forward by
Right.
starting this group.
Really excited about that. Really excited. And Jackie, we always start these broadcasts. We're so excited to talk about what we're doing. Forgot to introduce
You can tell
ourselves.
people who we are.
Yeah, for many of them, they know who we are already, but we're going to
Of
do it again.
course.
I'm Dr. Willie Miles. I'm the president of Dr. Willie Miles Children's Foundation, located right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And our mission is very simple. We want to make children our priority. That's what we're doing throughout the country, making children our priority. So every broadcast you hear is going to be talking about how to make children your priority and helping Jackie, helping parents become better parenting and or enhancing their parenting skills.
Yes, what do we call it? Parenting on purpose, deliberate, with
Right.
intentional parenting skills. And I'm Jacqueline Hampton Clemens. I am originator of Valley of the Giants, which is a conversation on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm co-hosting with Dr. Miles.
Okay, great. And just FYI, the foundation is a not-for-profit, so any giving you give to us is tax deductible, folk. It is tax deductible. So we're very excited about that. And Jackie, I got some good news for you. You know, many Americans were actually calling, supporting Grovius in Sierra Leone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Grovius, the
He
artist,
won.
he actually
Yes.
won. He won as the
Yay.
best,
I called over to Sierra Leone. Yes.
yeah, the best rapper in that district, and he's hoping to go to nationals. So congratulations to Grovius, and we have one other entertainer there who is, I'm not sure whether he's in Freetown, and his name is Icon. Just wonderful young men, wonderful music. And the last thing about Sierra Leone, Africa, and that is, Jackie, we're actually sponsoring a young man in college there.
Oh, wonderful.
And you'll be hearing more from him. His name is Luke Cisse. And Luke Cisse is 25 years old. But there, Jackie, it's like when you're 25, that's a regular age to go to college, I guess, because many of them are older going to college. And because, of course, the college pay, it costs, and just like in America, but not as much. But he's studying IT there. So hopefully he'll be doing well and representing the foundation in Africa. So I'm really happy about that. But we're international, but we're helping people wherever we can help them at. All right. So Jackie, we have a packed evening, but I do want to say that for those of you who are tuning in, we have 4 topics for the month of June. I do want to share that we are also planning our summer summit for the month of July. But on June 8th, which is tonight, is school in the summertime. Does it really help students, the pros and cons? Jack, do you have it in front of you, the next date?
I don't have the next date in front of me.
I have it. Okay, I have it. It's June 15th. I had problems in school. Now my child has problems. I feel responsible. And many parents feel that way. Many parents feel that, you know, that they had problems and it's hereditary. Don't worry about it, folks. It's not. All right. On June 22nd, we're going to deal with autism. If your child's on the autism spectrum, and what does that mean? And we have many children, Jackie, who are on the autism spectrum. And we're seeing an increase of Black children who are on the spectrum. And historically, Black children have not been on the spectrum at a higher rate than other races.
Right.
And I see a typo in one of our flyers, but it says, my child does not respect, the word should be authority. So those are the 4 things we'll be doing, Jackie. I'm really excited. And, you know,
they're perfect for summertime conversations. They really are. These, I would say, if you know anyone with children going back to school in the fall, it's already going to be sensitive, Dr. Miles, because they've been out. But this is definitely the place for parents to be on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. because we're really going to cover and we're going to have some helpful information.
Right. I do want to share that if you've not told anybody about us, please, on Facebook Live, call your friends, tell them we're on. We're going to only be on for an hour. Instagram, we got followers. Please make sure you tell somebody else. Stop being so greedy, wanting all the information yourself. Tell your friends and other family members about what we're doing. It is no charge, and there's no excuse for not knowing, except not being served enough to join us on these programs. These things cost you if you were going to therapy, folks.
Yeah, and you know something, I'm self-appointing myself as the development and fundraiser for the foundation, and we are going to be coming up with some fun ways to encourage our listeners to share. You know, so if we have someone who joins and they mention your name, you know, Dr. Miles, maybe we're going to be doing some drawings and giving away some gift cards on the air for those who are referring the most and randomly. So start thinking about that, especially for our summer topics. We really want parents and caregivers to be prepared with students. And the summertime, it starts now. Getting kids ready for the fall, parents getting ready themselves. So we're really excited about the summer series, and we really want you to continue to listen in, but bring someone with you.
Check, I do want to give a shout out to one of our Facebook family members. Her name is Deborah West. Deborah is just an awesome young lady down there in Fort Lauderdale. I think she's still in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and in ministry. And so Deborah, good seeing you. And I think what happened is that, you know, we made all of our other Facebook pages, we told them to become friends or like at the Children's Foundation, because they were looking at the other Facebooks that we have. Maybe we delete those. because we're not going to stream on those. We're going to stream on our company's Facebook page. So
Okay.
please share with everyone. If you're Facebook, please let people know they cannot get us on the other Facebook accounts. They must go and like us on Miles Children on Facebook. All right, that's the church announcements. Let's get into this
Okay.
topic. I really
I
hope
tell you,
everybody's doing.
school
Yeah.
in summertime, pros and cons. There's just a ton of them, Dr. Miles, on both sides.
Well, the thing about, as we were doing this, it was hard for me to look at pros and cons, other than to look at what is happening and what was happening before the pandemic, and
Yes,
what are the effects of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of people are basing everything on COVID, but we are going to talk tonight about some issues that were happening before COVID, if we're going to keep it real. And then, of course, COVID kind of just made things more of what they already were.
Right, exactly.
And it was kind of time for an overhaul in how we're handling education at home with our kids anyway.
Exactly. And so at this point, Jackie, when I was doing the research and you and I were talking about this, and I was kind of alarmed at the numbers. But,
Just the heading.
It sort of like put this into perspective for us. We're talking about close to 600 million children were affected by school closures, and just including adults also, in 34 countries, while in many others, they face reduced or part-time academic schedules. We're talking about, Jackie, I know education is your forte, but we're talking about that many people being affected. And as you and I have been talking before, I said, I don't know why we're trying to recoup last year. It was just a year lost. And it's for everybody.
A year lost. And
it's
I
like
really
a year lost in education.
I wanted people to let that number sink in. 600 million. Okay?
Yeah.
600 million due to school closures in 34 countries. And so here's the thing. One, you can say, okay, then, I'm like everyone else. And then you say to yourself, so that means everybody's going to start over and everybody's going to be doing it different. But that may not be the reality. And that's kind of what we want people to realize. So,
and Jackie, it's not the reality. And part of this discussion is, you've been saying this for years. Our parents, calm down, Willie Miles, calm down.
Yeah, you and I both tonight.
Jack, they better take their child's education to their own hands at this point. Now, you're talking about 600 million children, adults that were affected by school closures, which means, Jackie, that we were just so dependent upon a system.
Exactly. And there were a lot of people, Dr. Miles, who the education stopped. I don't mean crept slowly. I don't mean it was difficult on technology. Stop. There are some parents, and there's a header here, 3 million missing students. Some parents thought this epidemic was an opportunity to just skip school. And I can tell you personally, Dr. Miles, that I know of schools here that have massive failure numbers. Nothing to do with the pandemic. Kids simply stopped doing the work. I think many were expecting social promotions. So again,
Jackie, they didn't just stop doing the work. And the data shows us, and I'll tell you where the data came from the National Center for Education Statistics, the Annie Casey Foundation, and about 7 more. It's not that they just stopped doing the work. They stopped tuning in. They didn't even log on.
Yes. And listen, I was still in the school system at the beginning of this pandemic, and I can tell you that there was very little accountability. That's all I can say. Kids were coming onto the screens, sleeping. Not dressed, just all manner of situations. So this was early on. So I can only imagine what happened over the last 12 months.
When you think about it, I want to slow this down a little bit because I was wondering, first of all, will we have enough of the content? And this may have to be a part 2 because it's so serious. But we're not talking about just children who the pandemic came and they started doing bad. We're talking about some kids who were doing bad before the pandemic even came in.
Exactly. And now what this is going to mean for them.
Right.
Parents have to realize that your child could literally go back to school 2 to 3 levels behind where they left school because they are going to be assessed.
One thing I want to do, Jackie, because I know you and I take this, this is very passionate and we're going so fast.
We're going to stick with the data.
the comment I want to make is that we got to slow it down so that our parents and our listening audience can understand what is really happening and the real impact. Now, we talked about school in the summertime, and Jackie, that sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds like, well,
Sounds
guess what?
good.
They messed up during the pandemic so they can go and get the grade and so forth. But I'm not knocking it, Jackie. Trust, I'm an educator. But I just say, like, what is that really going to do? Or is it pacifying a public opinion?
Right. And so again, you're absolutely correct. Parents need to realize that is actually like a warm up, right? That is not, I hope people don't go to that thinking if my child was 2 levels behind before, they're going to be on level in August, right? Keep in mind, summer school is transitioning back for teachers, is transitioning back for some students who have not been there at all, like over the past year. So it's really a good idea, Dr. Miles, to set the right expectations about summer school and fall, but mostly to have parents start to take ownership back of the
Yeah,
learning process.
I want to sort of like stay focused also again, and what you're saying is so accurate on this 3 million missing children. Now, folks, that ain't the total amount of kids. We're talking about the ones who didn't show up and they can't trace them.
Right.
No, I want you to get that now. We're talking about the 3 million children who didn't log in.
Can't be found.
Can't
Not
be
the ones
found.
who could be
And
found, but still just weren't doing anything.
it's at all grade levels. And we
Yes.
know, and I want to slow it, I keep saying slow it down because I want to deal with some developmental stuff. You know, we can say, okay, that's fine. But Jackie, we already know that when children miss school, already drop out of school, they're less likely to go
To go
back to
back.
school. So
Very difficult to get your head back into that game.
so check out what we had. Ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
We had 3 million children who dropped out of school.
Right. 3 million.
Let that soak
And
for a
Dr.
while.
Miles, like you said, we're going to slow down a second and talk about some of the conditions that existed before, because guess what? These things intensified with the pandemic. Issues like children who were isolated before, children who were dealing with abuse, neglect, some acute mental health needs that were going untreated. So now those children have sat, and what people forget is that school was also a safe haven for some of these children. It was
Right.
a place to eat regular meals. It was a place to perhaps have some affection or some care and some concern from an adult, interact with their peers. And so for some kids, the loss of school was a traumatic experience from what they expected and in some cases what they needed.
Well, the thing about it is saying, now we can't blame the pandemic on for everything. Now, I want to talk about the 3 million children that were lost, but children are lost every year in our educational system, and who's most impacted are those marginalized children,
Every time.
children of color, and who's most impacted are going to be children of color and boys. But what we're seeing, Jackie, according to the research centers, is that girls are now being just terribly impacted by this.
The
So
numbers are increasing, yes.
yeah, let's just think about, what does it feel like to be out of school for a year?
Mhm.
Think about that. You're in the house for a year, which means that, I'm sorry.
Well, no, that, and now you've got to kind of get your mind back into school. I mean, Dr. Miles, there could be some serious issues in the fall if parents don't take this summer to help their children transition mentally, transition physically. And then, Dr. Miles, there was also the economic impact on many of these children, the homelessness, the displacement, just stability in general. So there's so much to deal with.
Yeah, the problem that we have, Jackie, is not just the children, and I'll get to this later when we start talking about teachers. But what I think what people are failing to realize is that what we had over that year was trauma.
Exactly.
And everybody's now saying, let's just jump back to order. Folk, it doesn't work that way.
Nope. And they're going to find that out.
It was traumatic for us as adults, but folk, it was just as traumatic for children. So let's all jump back, not wear the mask anymore. Let's bring things back to normal. Where is the magic switch on our minds? And so what I'm saying, folk, is slow this thing down. Let's make sure our children are healthy enough, first of all, to go back to
Exactly.
school
Be
and make sure.
deliberate. And Dr. Miles, I want to say I think it was more traumatic on children. You know,
Yes.
adults hopefully at some point, you know, are used to have some coping skills in place. Not all,
Hmm.
but you know, children in many instances may not know what hit them, and then if they didn't have support systems at home to help them navigate what was going on, as you said, this was a traumatic incident, and so we have a lot of untreated trauma out there.
Exactly. And we can't move that fast. Now, my point is that people saying, well, guess what? So what do you want us to do then? Are you saying the kids shouldn't go to summer school? I'm saying let them go. I mean, the schools are available. There's federal funding for it. They'll be in a safe place. It
They'll
will at least
probably be eating regular meals.
it gets
But
them
what we're
back into the
saying is,
gist or the routine of school. But if you're looking for significant learning gain, um, I'm not
and
sure.
we're saying, you know, in addition to going back to school, don't think once again that dropping them off at school is going to fix all of the concerns. So we're saying, yeah, let them go back to summer school, but also begin some conversations at home. Begin some self-study things at home, which is where it should be anyway, which
Well,
is where it should have been.
well,
And
learning should never stop in the first place because you got a home. Trust me,
learning should
I
never
understand.
have been just a school
Yeah,
activity. That's the biggest issue. So if it was not just a school activity before the pandemic, then those who had some home systems were able to continue those home systems, and those children never broke stride. And so
let's
they're
talk
going to
about
be
home
ready.
systems. You're talking about homeschooling, right?
I, or home, yes, yes. I
Yeah,
don't mean the full scale you were homeschooling, but some home educational systems.
but Jackie, the children who were homeschooled have not missed a beat.
Right, but that's why I'm saying I don't mean the formal homeschooling.
Right.
When I say homeschool systems, I mean, let's say you had a system for homework. Let's say you had a system for quote unquote summer bridge. Let's
Awesome
say you had
standards.
some of your own, yes, workbooks, which you
Hmm.
can now get at Dollar Tree. Okay. Let's say you already had a philosophy at home, a mindset at home that we learn no matter what. So if that was in
Right.
place when the pandemic hit, then you and your children know that school being closed or them not being in the school didn't stop the learning process.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Because those schools never control the learning process,
Because
and
they were never in control of it.
and this is exactly what happens when you give systems control of your life. When those systems break, your
Systems
life
outside of
breaks.
your home. Yes.
But Chuck, it's kind of amazing. You've been saying that for years. I've been around for 1,000 years, and we've been saying this. But now we are now looking at the damage that's been done. Now, by no means are we saying that this only affects Black children. Guess what?
Oh no, it
And that
affects
3 million,
everyone.
and that 3 million missing is all races and colors.
Right. We may be a larger percentage than we are of the population,
Right.
but we are still probably a minority. So this is going to affect all children. But of course, and our conversations are about all children, but you also, with any situation, you put time and energy where it is most needed. And
Yeah.
in this conversation, it is probably with children and families of color.
Check out. I want to share that some of those kids that are missing. You kind of covered the kids in foster care, the children experiencing homelessness, English learners, children where English is a second language, student with disabilities, and students eligible for migrant education.
Right.
Those are the kids who, and look at that list. Isn't that the marginalized list?
Yes. And people who were dependent on school systems providing that assistance.
Yeah.
Right. And
And
again, go ahead.
And I'm sorry, let's be clear. We're not blaming anyone. We're saying this should be a wake-up call for us. And this whole topic is school in the summertime, pros and cons. Jackie, I have a large number of kids that I have in treatment, right? I asked them, I said, well, and trust all of them going to, not all, most of them are going to summer school. And I said, well, what did you learn from this experience? Well, I should have studied harder. I said, I said,
What?
once you figure that out? When I failed the class.
Well, that then failure had a purpose, didn't it?
Isn't it a
They
bit late
figured it
then?
out.
Or some parents are saying, guess what? They can get that credit in 1 week.
Oh yeah, there are a lot
Okay.
of lost parents.
And there's some parents that are, I don't know what these systems are, Jackie, but they're saying they pay a certain amount, the child gets a half credit. They pay the $300 or $400, the child gets a whole credit. I said,
I'd like to know where that is, and I'm sure some other parents would too. Never heard of buying credits for school.
well,
Never heard of
it's
that.
somewhere here in Georgia. I got to find out. One of my
Yeah.
clients was telling me that she has to
Well,
pay
I would tell
$500.
most of our parents, don't expect it.
Don't.
It's going to be a rough road, Dr. Miles. And I hope again from our summer series that parents are tuning in and that they're going to start taking the steps to get in control. One, if this is your first time hearing this tonight, go out tomorrow. Go to a Dollar Tree. Go to Walmart, Walgreens, anywhere. Get some instructional books for the level your child was.
You better stop getting these people ad time free.
Listen. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, maybe they can fund us now that we're supporting them. But go get a book tonight, tomorrow, and establish a certain amount of time to do that. 2, call your school. Find out where the child is. And the other thing that I want to add, Dr. Miles, that we're going to get to, they also need to find out what sort of counseling services that school is going to provide students on the return. Now, a lot of schools are doing what they call the, what is it? Not the happy program, but they're doing the mental wellness programs in the morning. So, but as a parent, you need to know, how is my school going to transition kids back? Are they just going to get those kids in there and say, hey, let's start testing? How are they transitioning back? What are you doing at home over the summer to transition your children? Because my understanding, Dr. Miles, is that in the fall, the educational centers are business as usual. So there'll be no more passes. There'll be no understanding. There'll be no excuses. Despite what's happened over the last 12 months, it's going to be, we expect full engagement.
Well, the thing about it is that, they can say that. And of course, many times the marginalized students are going to be the ones that are affected the most. But I do want to say that when you talk about the mental health services being available, I mean, I wouldn't count up on that because it wasn't accounted that were not available before. And with the limited
We're
budget
hoping
that
they
school,
learn.
with the limited budget that school social workers have. Now there is new federal money that's coming down to support those schools, so there may be some of that money in there. And I think I have something in the data that talks about the kind of money that is available for these school districts. I want to talk about why these kids are not attending school. Why are these kids not attending school? And we covered some of that in our dialogue. Why were those kids not logging in? And why were those kids still in bed and pajamas? Why were those kids allowed to and we're told that, I don't have to see your face. As long as you log in, you get credit. I'm just saying, but see, we're looking at it from the parent's perspective and from the child's perspective, but also teachers had families. Teachers were going through stuff.
There were
teachers
teachers who were trying to homeschool their own kids while teaching online to their classrooms. It
right.
was, right. Absolutely.
And there were teachers, which you've already experienced, who were threatened
yes.
that if they didn't do a certain thing, they'll be fired.
Oh yeah, there was just pressure all the way around. I can't even imagine what the fall looks like without schools having a transitional period, right?
Well, they had the transitional period. They have in summer.
Yeah, and you're right. That's how they're going to see it.
And that's
they're
going
to
be
let
it.
you know that was transition. So for those parents who are thinking about sitting out summer or who maybe don't even have the opportunity, again, this is what you need to be doing at home. You cannot depend on any school system to be 100% responsible for your child's education.
Why were the kids not attending? The kids in foster. I'm sorry, go on.
Well, no. Finish that, and then I was looking at some of the traditional reasons why kids,
yes,
quote unquote,
why kids are not attending. We're talking about kids in foster care. There with the foster care the pandemic didn't stop it because kids were still being abused. I mean, and there was no school, and oftentimes when there are calls that came in for potential abuse, that child had stayed in the house with the purpose to perpetuate the act. So you got all kind of mental stuff going on. You're talking about children who are experiencing homelessness, which is already traumatizing. They were in the shelters, and so they could not go out. So there are many reasons why children didn't attend, but there are also reasons, we can find reasons why parents didn't cause something to happen. because they were really trying to survive.
Yeah.
If you look at this whole thing, we were in a panic mode. I mean, can't find food, not having jobs. I mean,
Your language is correct. It was survival mode in
who,
most instances.
and that child's education was not the most important thing at that time.
No.
It was
And again,
surviving.
I think
Yeah,
they need to be calling their school districts. They need to be finding out what is the plan and what is the expectation. Do you expect my child to come back and everything to be normal? What is the plan so that you can partner, but as a parent, so that you can make sure you're taking care of your child's needs. Again, don't trust them to do so. And Dr. Miles, don't forget about the great digital divide in
yeah.
terms of reasons why children were not learning. That students did not have appropriate hardware or software or connectivity, were big, big issues. And some
You
of
know,
them,
well, not just that. You know what's interesting also? It's not that your children didn't have it. Some of the school districts didn't have it. The kids go on, the teacher's not in the classroom, and they're logging off. There were just so many issues. Kids diverting porn sites to this. Yeah, it just had it was just chaotic because nobody.
not to mention the parents who could not remember that their children were on
Right.
screen and were caught in so many different compromising situations. It's been a rough year
It's been a
for
rough year.
education.
It's been a rough year. And again, we're not here trying to frighten you. We're simply saying, take some action. And
This is
what I'm going to say, though,
enlightenment.
what I'm going to say is stay calm. Just stay calm. I mean, when you start doing the research on this and preparing for this broadcast, I was just concerned when I saw the numbers. I had no idea the numbers were like that. I had no idea. But when I heard this thing about summer school, I said, okay, I understand summer school, but what is supposed to be achieved? If you're talking about learning gain in those 4 weeks or 5 weeks,
I,
I'm not I'm not
I
sure.
think, look, learning recovery, maybe. And according to UN estimates, okay, nearly 500 million students from pre-primary to upper secondary school did not have access to any remote learning. 3/4 of those lived in the poorest households or in rural areas. Now, why is this important to everyone? Because those kids are going to be in class with your kids. So you're dealing with a teacher now who has to come back and deal with multiple scenarios from COVID-19. Some who were online, some who weren't online, some who didn't have access, some who literally haven't thought about school in more than a year and a half.
But also they're having to deal with the politics of COVID. Our government officials are fighting each other about who should wear the mask, who shouldn't wear the mask. Are the schools prepared for the mask? Are they prepared? And then schools that opened early, kids got sick. So what you got is this reoccurring trauma. And then you're creating all this anxiety.
Right.
So the anxiety is, are the schools safe to send your children back? We
Yeah.
gotta do something. We
Yeah.
gotta start back to work. We gotta start normalizing. So, but are those schools safe enough? And I think with all of this energy, starting schools, stopping because shut down for COVID, and then cleaning, I think that has created just a whirlwind of emotional issues for not only just children, but also for parents.
Mm-hmm.
In March of last year, there were 56.4 million students who had to convert to virtual learning.
The numbers are insane. And
50,
likewise, there were that coordinating number of parents and families who tried to switch to homeschool or supporting their children all day on virtual learning.
But think about this also. We're talking about the children who had problems getting on, but many of those parents were not computer literate. They didn't know what no Zoom was and no Google Room, and many of the teachers didn't know either.
Oh, it was definitely a learning curve for teachers.
So,
There were
folks,
very few teachers who were using virtual platforms at that level, if any. And it was a huge learning curve. It's a great demand while, again, managing their own lives. And our numbers suggest that 24 million students worldwide are going to be at risk of dropping out of school because of the pandemic.
say it again. Say that again.
Right, 24 million. So what we're saying, parents, you don't want your children to be a part of that, but you don't want to just take for granted that they're just going to normalize back into school. You want to take some deliberate steps to help with that.
You know what's interesting though is that I'm glad you brought that number up because I have a client base and as a therapist, and many of the young people that I know, they tell me they're looking for jobs.
Yep.
They're saying that they're saying their family is so desperate at this point, they're looking for jobs, and they're looking for jobs because the unemployment they're giving people $200 a week, and they
Right.
have 4 and 5 children, and
Right.
then they're dealing with this thing of, and this is the politics of it. It says like these people don't want to work. Guess what? How can you work if you got children at home and nowhere to take them? So,
And then some. Right.
so
And
the teens are going out getting jobs.
they are. And along with that, while the world knew we had a pandemic, there were certain creditors, Dr. Miles, who didn't stop. Yeah, we still need the car note. We know you're not working. We know the rest of the world came to a standstill, but yeah, we need to we need money or we're going to pick it up. There are some people who are dealing, as you mentioned already, with housing situations. Honestly, I'm curious as to how what that looks like in the fall, if again the schools are only dealing with academic concerns.
Now, folks, we know our topic was school in the summertime, pros and cons, and I gave you one pro. So we'll give you some more. We give you more than one. We said at least
There's a lot of pros, Dr.
yes,
Miles. There's
yeah.
a lot. Okay.
But our goal is to set the foundation for you to have you to understand how you probably take some action,
And why it's important.
and don't think it's all over because it's not over yet.
Right. And honestly, I'm saying at least another year. The next year in the schools, I believe Dr. Miles will be as transitional as the past year has been out of school.
Check. This is sort of off key, but for our summer summit, there's a workshop that deals with Generation Alpha children. And Generation Alpha children are children that were born after 2010. And it's just amazing. And I'll give you a little tidbit. The Alpha children were born computer literate and digitally inclined. And so the question is, why are my kids always on their computers and always on the phones are hooked to their sides?
It's all they know.
They're Generation Alpha babies.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And what that means in terms of communicating with them, speaking, teaching them, household communications. I have a friend who had children like maybe 10 years before I did. And I remember when she told me the children would be upstairs texting her downstairs. So this has become their means of communication.
I didn't mean to go there. I didn't mean for us to get sidetracked. I really didn't. I mean, but I thought that it would help some parent understand why their child is right into the technology. And in July, we're going to have an entire hour-long session on Generation Alpha children. All right, let's get back to our topic. Jackie, I'm sorry, go on.
Well, one of the things that came up is that people are looking at summer as a time to recharge their batteries, to get away from the stress, for their kids to have fun and play again, and maybe take a family vacation. Everyone is burned out and needs a break. Now, let's balance that, Dr. Miles, or compare that, or, level that out with the fact that we're saying kids need to be in school. Take a break, vacation, get away. Kids need to be in school to help transition back. That's a tough one.
Well, I hear the parents already saying, well, they don't have a vacation, so we ain't no more vacation they're getting. But I think the vacation we're talking about is a vacation that deals with mental health, that says, if nothing else, parents, don't just send your kids back to summer school. Have a family meeting. Talk about what has happened. Talk about, you failed the grade. It's not the end of the world, but, you got to get back into the hang of things. And the hang of things means that, one, you got to listen to me, first of all, for the parents who want to talk to their kids. Some of the parents ain't talking. In many of these cases, the children are making all the decisions. And so, and there are some parents who just are single parents, Jackie, who were, some of them never stopped working. And so they left their kids at home. They leave work at 7 saying, get on the computer at 9. The kid, I was on. What he meant, he had it on. He wasn't on.
Right.
So
I can attest to some of that.
So I think that parents are going through a whole lot of guilt also, and saying that maybe they didn't do the best they could have done. I'm saying, don't do that to yourselves. What has happened, and let's move forward. Has happened. you cannot worry about things you don't control. So
And I want
stop.
to offer just one very important strategy. Again, you know, this is my area always. And I've mentioned in terms of contacting the schools, but parents, as school goes back into play, especially those of you, you know, who continue to work and need to, you need to have a beeline access to your child's teacher. That is the only way you're going to know what your child is actually doing. Because you just gave a perfect example, Dr. Miles, and I can
Mhm.
tell you, I saw that a million times. They were on, right? It was on, the computer was on, but the kids were not on. And the parents were at work.
Right.
So there, again, we need household systems with education as a priority.
Well, the thing about it is that I think the education should have been a priority, and I understand the trauma of all this. I understand the chaos. I really understand. We all went through it. We all went through it. But having children, part of our responsibility is whenever we're going through it, is to keep calm. You know, to keep our children calm and have them understand. It's past tense now. But have them understand that they're part of the solution. They're part of the solution. So part of the solution is that you should have been doing what you should have been doing. Now, at the damage has been done. The question is, can the damage be corrected? The answer is yes.
Yes.
But Jackie, what you've been screaming for years, though, it's going to take parent activism. And I'm not talking about folk. Just Jackie says, call the school, go up there, find out, establish a communication
Call
line.
the teacher.
But I'm saying to you, you need to call yourself
First,
and ask yourself, what is my
what you're
role in
doing.
what's my role in my child's education?
Very good.
Yo,
What
what's
is
my
your role
role?
and what are you doing about it?
And
Yes.
what can I do? And what kind of resources can I, help? But I think, let me just give you a short answer to that also. One thing you can do is develop your set of core standards when it comes to education. That you're gonna get education, whether you like it or not. You know, you're gonna make good grades based upon your capacity. Are you
And
with me?
make it a consistent
And
message and a
exactly,
frequent message. This is not at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. This is
exactly.
nearly every day. Every day.
And I had a client, Jackie, and we're gonna really cover that, a whole lot more to cover. And he didn't like going to school, and I don't know why the parents didn't tell him the importance of going to school and make it relevant to his life. So in treatment, I talked about the causes and effects. What happens if you don't go versus what happens if you do go? You don't go, you're not in control of yourself. You do go, you got some control of what you do. Did you know that you don't like math now? I didn't like math when I was in school either. I hated math. I couldn't even understand fractions. I didn't understand why we had to multiply something. I didn't multiplication. Well, I didn't get it. But guess what? A lot of kids don't get it. It's about
Right.
how you process. So I'm
Right.
saying make that applicable to life. You want to subtract your money or you want to add your money. So they're all money conscious. My only point is find some way to reach your children at all ages and set your standards. Your standards are, you're in this house, you're going to school.
And
There's no
express their standards. I
there's no
say it
if and
again.
yes, there's no ifs,
There's
ands, and
no,
buts.
yep.
And secondly, and yeah, Jack, I was kind of like some of the schools during the pandemic requested that kids dress, which I thought was wonderful, versus having kids in the bed, kids under the covers and all that kind of foolishness.
Well, Dr. Miles, this is a before COVID situation. Private schools have requirements. Charter schools that use public dollars have requirements. I know for a fact that there's a charter school group here in Miami that is a national charter school group, and they were one that told their children from day one of pandemic, be online at 8 o'clock in a school shirt.
Well, you know
Period.
why?
Be online at 8 o'clock in the morning, just as you would have been in that class in uniform. They were taking attendance and they were checking uniforms. So what did their children do? They showed up online in a uniform every morning. I
And they
guarantee you.
paying, and they're
And,
paying.
and they're paying.
Well, guess
So,
what? I have to
but for
whisper.
some reason, public schools say they can't do that.
I have to whisper this. I have to whisper this. Teacher unions.
Uh-oh.
That's the difference.
I mean, I'm just baffled. I
That's the
often
difference.
wonder if it's a formula for failure.
Well, it's teacher unions that where many of the public schools teachers can't do and won't do certain things. So, but again, the point is, I think in all of this, the topic is whether or not summer school, the pros and cons of it. We give you the pros and cons, but we're also giving you the background, the foundation of all of it, the foundation. And at the end of the day, the foundation is you, the parent.
Right. And
At the
Dr.
end of the day.
Miles, at one of our sessions, perhaps one of our retreats, not retreats, but one of our conferences this summer, we need to have students on talking about the impact of this, talking about what they feel their needs are going to be as they transition back. And again, I'm hoping that schools and that even at home, there are going to be opportunities to listen to students and hear from them.
Well, that's one thing we can consider, because I'm thinking really that I want parents to take this opportunity, because some of the summer schools I think have already started, take the opportunity to say, listen, am I putting all of my faith in a system to ensure my child is productive? And if the answer is yes, you're doomed for failure. Our only comment is take control of your child's situation when it comes to schools. Take control. And moving forward, don't allow any system to totally control your children. Don't let any system totally control your children, because when you do that as a parent, that means you've lost control.
And Dr. Miles, I want to interject here also that we don't mean, and this is what ties up a lot of parents, and they get confused between taking control and doing it for them. Mm-hmm. By no means are we advocating that parents spend 2 hours learning something to teach. Hold your teachers accountable for learning. Hold your students accountable hold your teachers accountable for teaching, and your students accountable for learning. If a child comes home and says, I don't understand, then you send them back to the teacher. But the point is that Dr. Miles and I are making is that as parents, you should know what they're learning. You should know what the challenges are, and you should be supporting the system of education.
So the pros are for summer school is that they'll be supervised. They will get a lunch. They'll get some transitioning skills for the fall. I would just say, don't be jumping up and down and saying, oh my God, he didn't go to school the whole year. And those 4 weeks, he's now on the 5th grade level in the 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. It ain't happening.
Nope.
So
and let's share a little bit too. Our U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, has warned of significant damage to student learning and social emotional wellness during the pandemic. And the American Rescue Plan's Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund is funneling $1.22 billion to states and school districts across the U.S. Okay, but again, what that means is that parents, you need to be calling your schools and your school districts to find out how they will be supporting your child's grade level, and what the expectation is. Exactly. And that, of course, is Honey saying hi to everyone.
All right. Honey sounds vicious. But at any rate, our goal is to make sure that we give you information. So I want to ask at this point on both our Facebook Live and also on our Instagram Live, do you guys have any questions for us? Any questions or any comments? If you will, put that in your comment section.
Right.
And we'll be more than happy
to. How many of our listeners on tonight have school-age children, K through college? How many of you have children at home that you are supporting? Because Dr. Miles, we didn't talk about this very much, but college students were dealing with many of these same issues. Many college students came out. Not all of them were, virtual learners are comfortable in the virtual formats. So there were some adjustments that are being made as well.
Yeah, I really didn't get into that area because I want to deal with school-age children. I want to do that that K through that 12, because even though those adults, and many of them are in school, did have difficulties. Many of them were making decisions on their own, and some of them even much like the parents. When they were in college, they sleep and don't go to class. So that was pre-pandemic.
Nothing new.
That was pre-pandemic. Okay. I'm glad to see Brian and Amber Marsh on Facebook Live. I'm glad you guys transitioned over from Instagram. But I do want to say that this is a situation that none of us saw coming. And this is a situation that none of us had control over. But there are some things we do control, folk. We cannot control the pandemic. We cannot control school districts. We think we can. We can't. They do what they want to do. But what we can control our own households. We can control our
Absolutely.
foundations. We can control what we give our children. And what we should be giving our children is hope, is hope. And I want you to tell your children, stop depending upon teachers to pass them. They should be passing themselves.
And they should already know. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So again, our message tonight, parents, it's time for you to jump back into that education environment, just in case you came out or felt that everyone was on a hiatus from school. It is time to get ready and to help your child intentionally and deliberately prepare to be successful over the summer and for the fall.
Yeah, Brian and Amber said they have children. Guys, share with us some of the things that you experienced, and they're on Facebook Live. Some of the things
Okay.
that you all had problems with. Did you have problems with your kids actually logging in, and they would say, "Oh, guess what? The teacher's not there, so we didn't stay." You have those kind of problems. I heard all those. Oh, guess what? Our Google team didn't work. Oh, guess what? Guess what? We didn't have class today. Oh, guess what? Our internet wasn't working. Y'all paid a bill.
Oh yeah, we
So,
or the school's internet wasn't working, and there
right.
was no
Well,
homework. There are no assignments, and
well, Jackie, guess what? I kind of believe that. I'm telling you, I went to a school and visited their computer lab here in Atlanta. They had a beautiful lab with 50 computers. They told me they had internet connection problems. That was pre-pandemic. And I said, what's the point of the 30 computers? It's a lab. Okay, anyway, another story.
yeah,
So,
yeah, all of that was happening ahead of time. I will say most districts, at least the ones that I've heard of, really did step up over the summers. I mean, over this break, made every effort to put a laptop in every child's hand. I know
right,
some districts were able to even work with cable companies to make sure that there was internet service for those families who had not otherwise had them. So there
right.
has been a tremendous amount of effort put into place to minimize regression and loss and to facilitate learning. Again, the determining factor was how the parents supported that and what efforts they took to make sure that those resources were being used to the greatest advantage.
Well, Jackie, Leon logged on. He said, "Hi guys, bye guys." That's my son. And guess
Notice
what?
that.
Yeah, he did that. He has his own live stream that starts at 8 o'clock. So I know that's
Okay.
why he wants to make sure he supports us. But I do want to say this to all of you, folks. We really do appreciate y'all. We appreciate you following us. And guess what? We don't necessarily look at the numbers. We look at our content, and we just believe we're doing a good job giving information to the community that normally you would not get, and giving it from a perspective that's a reality-based perspective. No
Absolutely.
sugarcoating, no, oh, sweetheart, no. Be the parent that you didn't have, or be the parent that you had. Are y'all with me? And so at this point, I want to close out with some of our announcements. Again, Jackie, help me
Well,
out. You know, I'm getting older. I'm talking
and
about the
Dr. Miles, I also want to just close out our topic with this thought for our parents. What happens if kids are not going back? What are the long-term consequences of this crisis if you don't get control of it now?
Mhm.
So just give that some thought.
Don't forget to give Focus our month of giving, our national month of giving, the foundation. Please go to our website now and donate to us, and donate big. That sounds just like, anyway, donate big. Give from your
And
heart.
leave us a message when you visit so that we know you were there. Again, we're going to initiate some fundraising activities over the summer, just some random appreciation of those listeners and supporters who are really helping us to continue to do the work that we do.
Okay, I want to keep it. We also have the alumni we're going to be doing. If you have been impacted by my work throughout my career, please join that alumni association, and people give. And
And Dr.
also,
Miles, are they scheduled to come and present at the end of the summer, at any point this summer?
who is this job about?
The
Who?
alumni,
No,
the
they're
charter
not.
members.
No,
Okay.
not at all. No, what we're going to do is keep it fundraising driven. They're going to
Okay.
be they're going to do their own thing, and I want to move this on, and I want to make sure that you all tell friends about us. Tell friends about us. Don't be so greedy getting all the information. Share on our Facebook Live. help people to like us, will be on next week. Our topic next week is going to be a very, very interesting. The topic is, I had problems in school. Now my child has problems. Did I cause it? All right. So I am done. Jackie, anything else you want to say before we close out?
Nope, nothing at all. Just visit, watch the old shows, watch the new shows. We'll see you next week.
All right, great. Hey, guys, be good. We'll see you. Thanks for logging in. And trust me, we don't take you for granted. You could be doing something else. Like what? All right, good night.
That was mean. Good night.